Well, this is ruined by every chance of being sponsored by them ever. Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia, and I tried Blinkist for 7 days, so you don't have to. You may have seen the ads around. I certainly have. All over the place, on YouTube, on other websites. Blinkist very heavily advertised at me, so I decided to give it a go. Blinkist is an app that has many features. They have audiobooks, they have podcasts and original content, but the main selling point, the thing that they advertise, the thing that makes them different from other audiobook apps, is that they claim they can give you the main points of any non-fiction book in 15 minutes. Essentially, they're advertising themselves as an alternative to reading books or listening to full audiobooks by, and I quote here from their website, read or listen to the key ideas from best-selling non-fiction titles in 15 minutes. So the idea is that you get their app, you subscribe to it, and you can listen to as many books as possible that are condensed to 15 minutes. And they claim that you will still get the key ideas and an understanding of what the book is about. I was dubious. I am a reader, and even though I don't read much non-fiction, since I much prefer reading fiction, I do read some of it. Some of the books that I saw advertised on Blinkist as 15-minute summaries, I just could not imagine being condensable into 15 minutes, because we are talking about some really big books about heavy, complex concepts that I just didn't think you can squeeze into 15 minutes. So I decided to give the free trial a go, and I tested it out for 7 days. If you pay for Blinkist, by the way, in the UK, it costs £9.99 monthly, or £4.99 monthly if you pay a year in advance. Okay, so I've got the Blinkist app in the Google Play Store, and I'm going to install that. It's probably not going to ask me for payment information because you get a 7-day free trial, which I'm intending to make use of. But let's see what it actually looks like. How did you hear about Blinkist? Online advertising, obviously. Can't miss it. How your free trial works. Today, start your full access to all non-fiction insights. Day 5, get a reminder about when your trial will end. That's actually really good. Lots of apps don't do that, they just charge you at the end. And then day 7, you'll be charged today, cancel anytime before. So in actual fact, it doesn't seem to be a 7-day trial, but a 6-day trial, because you get charged on the 7th day. Let's see if it's worth it. Start your 7-day free trial. Adding my PayPal now, you don't need to see that. It says, nice, 7-day trial has started. Let's go. I am very interested in the summaries of books that I have already read so that I can figure out how useful the summary actually is, how many things it leaves out. You can also get full-length audiobooks. By the looks of it, these are all kind of best-selling self-improvement or self-help type books. Here you've got trending blinks, as they call it. So I guess that's popular ones. And then it also gives me what looks like podcasts, possibly very short podcasts, 2 minutes, 7 minutes an episode. And what else do we have? The latest blinks, so I guess that's the new editions. All right, let's find a book that I have actually read. Oh, there's one, Sapiens. I've got that one, so I can click on that to get the full-length audiobook. But let's see if we can find a 15-minute summary of Sapiens. There you go, Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And the summary for that is 19 minutes, 13 blinks. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Oh, I guess that's chapters, or the way that they have summarized the book into 13 bits. Okay, I'm going to listen to that now You don't get to, because I don't want to get sued, but I'll see you in 19 minutes. Okay, so my first impression... No. I read this book last year, I think, or even 2 years ago, and it's just not good enough to summarize this book in 19 minutes for you to actually understand any of the topics explained in it. Sapiens is a rather complex book that attempts, and this is already a very ambitious attempt, to summarize the history of humankind in a single book. It is already incredibly condensed. It's already trying to communicate so many different concepts in a very short amount of time. Then trying to condense this to 19 minutes, it just doesn't work. You get a few of the buzzwords from the book, you get a few of the sort of sweeping generalizations that kind of read like you're looking at a history of humankind Wikipedia page, rather than the really complex argumentation and attention to detail that is in the book. Just to give you a little taste for what listening to this 90-minute summary feels like, I'm going to read out what, according to the app, is the key message to take away from the book. For 300,000 years, Homo sapiens have moved from being just one of the many species of human to becoming the most dominant species to ever walk the planet. Beginning with the development of language, human civilization has been getting more and more sophisticated, leading to the interconnected global village we have today. That reads like a book blurb. That is not a key message. This isn't really any new information, and it doesn't really tell you what the book is trying to communicate. So my first experience with this, rather disappointing, but we'll see how it continues. I have bookmarked a number of links, a number of books, both books that I have read and books that I haven't read. Books that are in fields where I'm comfortable, like history, and books that are about subjects that I know nothing about, like mathematics. We'll see where this goes. I selected books that I had already read so that I can tell you whether the 15-minute summary really is an adequate representation of the entire book, if the 15-minute summaries are enough to grasp the main concepts of those books, and how this concept works in different genres. For example, how does it work for a book about business versus an autobiography, or a book about science, or a book about history. So I found a few books that I had already previously read from different genres of non-fiction literature. Then I also selected some books that I hadn't read, and again I tried to get a relatively broad spectrum here. I listened to books about things that interested me, things that didn't interest me, things that I knew something about, and things that I didn't know something about. Overall, I listened to 15 non-fiction titles, so my first experiences definitely did not impress me. I got the feeling after listening to a few books that this app could only really appeal to people who want to pretend they've read a book, rather than people who want to learn actual concepts from that book. The individual blinks, which we can just call chapters, even though they don't correspond one-to-one to the chapters of the actual book, but those little 1-minute segments just don't go anywhere near adequately summarizing a chapter of a book. I want to say here that that is not the fault of whoever wrote these summaries or the people who were narrating them. It is an impossible task to summarize a whole chapter or even 2 whole chapters of a non-fiction book into 1 minute of audio. It doesn't work. Books are already edited. Books are already reduced down to the main messages. Books are already made to have a flow of argument, a flow of discussion. And that was noticeable in almost every genre. If I was to rank them, the most pointless genre to listen to in Blinkist would definitely be the memoir and autobiography part. The appeal of reading a memoir is not just so you have a short biography of a person. If I want a short biography of a person, I will look at their Wikipedia page. I don't need to read the memoir for that. I read memoirs for the deeper connection to the author, and also to read about someone else's experience in a way that makes me emphasize with them and in a way that gives me a new perspective. When Blinkist summarizes first-person narratives, such as autobiographies, they change the narration style to third person, so you lose that sense of perspective, and it simply ends up sounding like the introduction to a speaker at an academic conference. And next up we have Claudia. She spent her childhood in Germany but moved to Wales at age 22, where she studied, it's that level, not even scratching the surface of a person's life. It just didn't work. I also noticed, in particular with the Tara Westover memoir that I listened to, that Blinkist glosses over the dark parts of the book. A large part of this memoir is about abuse, about horrible things happening to the author, and the Blinkist summary just kind of glosses over that with a sentence or two. I found that more upsetting than some of the other things that have been missed out or glossed over in all of the books that I've listened to. And I'm not even a fan of that particular autobiography. I didn't really like it that much. But the 15-minute summary just did not do it justice. I noticed a similar thing in the book Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge, which I've also read the full version, the whole book, which, by the way, isn't that long. There really is no excuse. Anyway, in the book, the author combines her academic research with her personal experiences, and the book is written in first person. So as well as talking about studies and research and history, she talks about her own lived experience. None of that makes it into the 15-minute summary. It's so shallow, it reads like you are looking at an article in a newspaper about the author, because that's the length of what you're looking at. They are trying to condense whole books into the length of an article in The Guardian. When I listened to links to summaries of books that I hadn't read, for example, I listened to The 4-Day Week by Andrew Barnes and Stephanie Jones, which I had not read and is about an area of nonfiction that I'm not too familiar with. I felt a bit lost as well, because while I got some sound bites out of it, like I vaguely remember that the authors argue for a 4-day week mostly out of a sort of capitalist point of view. So they say that the reason why we should have a 4-day week is because eventually it'll make more money for companies. Even just saying that, I'm not 100% sure if that's actually what they were trying to say. And all of the other aspects of the book are completely lost on me. And I get the feeling that that is another book where the authors pull both from lived experience and from research and studies and science. And just none of that makes it through. So at the beginning of this experiment, I had the vague idea that Blinkist is an app for people who want to pretend that they've read books so they can show off with that at parties. But honestly, I'm not even sure if it's good enough for that. I'm not even sure if I could pretend to have read these books to other people and convince them that I have actually read them. Because as soon as there's one question about the deeper concepts of these books, I would be completely lost. Let's just briefly talk about the technical aspect of the app. I found the app incredibly well designed, well made. The player works well, and you have the option of reading along with the text of the blinks. So you can either listen to them or you can read the summaries, and it very nicely synchronizes the written summaries with the spoken word. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about the technical aspects of the app. It works incredibly well. The narrators, similarly, pretty decent narrators. They tried to match British authors with British voices, but not all of the British authors were matched with British voices. Some of the British books were read by American narrators, but that's fine, that's a bit nitpicky. Unfortunately, that's where my praise ends for Blinkist. If you want to understand concepts from non-fiction books, then unfortunately, Blinkist is entirely inadequate for that goal. I will recommend listening to podcasts instead. You will find, for example, podcasts like Freakonomics regularly interview authors about their non-fiction works. For example, one of the Blinkist summaries that I listened to was about the book Grit by Angela Duckworth, which combines psychological research and a sort of self-help, life improvement, self-improvement angle. And she's a psychologist who has researched very heavily into this concept of grit. I got a lot more out of listening to the interview that she did on Freakonomics podcast a few years ago than I did listening to the 15-minute summary. And the podcast was only a 45-minute investment, and I still felt like I understood the main concepts of her book much more than by listening to the 15-minute summary. Then I went on to actually read her book, and obviously that deepened my understanding. But what I'm saying is, if you're trying to get an idea of what a certain book is about, even if you're not planning to read the book, if you're just trying to understand a concept that you know has been written in a book, search for interviews with the author and search for podcasts with the author. By attempting to squeeze that much information into a 15-minute chunk of text, so much gets lost that what you end up with are single sentences and sound bites that just don't make sense out of context. My advice would be to just read the books. Listen to them on audiobook if you like. I am an avid Audible member. I like listening to audiobooks as well as reading them on paper. With nonfiction in particular, I find that the medium of audiobooks works better for me. So many of the books that I listened to on Blinkist, I already listened to on full-length audiobook. And yes, you are investing more time, but the payoff is not just much bigger, but the payoff is there. You will understand something when you listen to a whole book about it. You won't understand it when someone tries to summarize that book into a 15-minute chunk. And I think that's where the problem lies, because Blinkist isn't selling itself as a service that helps you understand certain concepts in 15 minutes. That's not what the app is about. But it claims to summarize books in 15 minutes. And unfortunately, at that goal, it fails completely, in my opinion. It is not worth your £10 monthly. Spend those £10 on audiobooks instead, and while it will take you much longer to get through a book, at least you will have understood it by the end of it. So finally, if you have any experiences with Blinkist, let me know in the comments below. Mine is only one opinion, and bear in mind that I am a reader. Maybe Blinkist is useful for people who otherwise just don't read books. But even so, I would urge you to just give audiobooks a go. Give full-length audiobooks a try before you pay money for Blinkist. However, the 7-day trial is there and it is available to you. And if you are simply curious about it, then go and give it a go. There is no cost to it if you cancel in time. That's it from today's video. I should also say that even though it was an incredibly frustrating experience, it was also kind of fun making this video, because I tried out something that I would not normally have tried out. So if there are any other apps that touch on the sort of reading experience that you want me to try out, then give me your suggestions in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Bye.